Hi, this is Old Myths and New Legends with Charlie and Rob. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Rob. And this podcast is all about learning new things about fantasy books. I am older and have read a lot more older style fantasy books, and Charlie is younger and has read some more newer fantasy books. So we've been exchanging our favorite books to see what we think about them, and also try and explore new genres of fantasy style books. So, Charlie, you chose your first book, which was?
It was Throne of Glass, because I think everybody should read it, if I'm honest. So, starting with that, before we give anything away, any sort of opinions, Rob, what did you think? Did you like it? Yes or no?
Yes.
You did. Yes. I can be happy. We can stop this conversation now, and we don't have to go any further because you liked it, and that's all I need to know. Right? Why? Why did you like it? Right? Tell me.
I liked it. Well, it's really hard to like. I liked the book as a whole, but I didn't like the first half. I loved the second half. I thought the first half I had issues with quite a
All
lot of
right.
issues. Quite a lot of issues with. Not in terms of the story. I thought the story was pretty solid all the way through. I liked the story as a whole. I think it's a good story. I think it got where it needed to go on a first book in terms of introducing characters.
Yeah.
But I did find the first half of the book a very hard read.
Can you talk about why? Can you say why it was difficult? Like what made it a bit
Yeah,
of a drag for you?
I'll be honest, the way the characters were written in that first half of the book was very confusing.
All right.
So I felt that the main character, I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but in my head it was Kalena.
It's Selena. Oh God, now I'm saying it wrong. It's Selena Sardothian, I think.
Okay, we'll
And
go with
even
Kalena
then,
then.
we might have people coming at us with that, but I
Yeah,
feel like I listened to the audiobook enough to feel like that might be right.
yeah, no, that's fine. Cool. So it in my head it was too jumbled. There was trying to fit too much character development in a very short space of time. It was like, is she a badass? Is she like a broken teen? Is she, does she need help? Is she
Yeah.
independent? Rather than being like, she's this badass and she's been, obviously spoilers by the way, people. She's been in
Oh
this
yeah.
prison camp. She's come out. She's hard and she's kind of like, grr, and then finding out later on that she's kind of like a little bit broken and she needs that support and love and stuff. But it kind of just was like within the first 10, 15 pages, it's like, oh yeah, there's this hardcore assassin. Oh, but she's a poor little girl. Hardcore
Yeah.
assassin. Poor little girl.
But
And
how?
it was just like,
Yeah. Where do you place yourself?
yeah. And I was just like, kind of like build up the hardness of her to then really have the impact of her being vulnerable,
Yeah.
which I just don't think in the first half of the book, it kind of like, it was too flip floppy between that. And I think she did that with all the characters. There was no like building of a particular character trait before introducing another one. So I just feel that, that could have been done a little bit better. But having said that, I do like to do kind of like loads of research on the stuff I read. So I didn't
Cool.
realize that it was her first book. I thought ACOTAR was
No, she wrote
written
this
before.
very young.
Yeah, so this was her first novel. So I was like, so I kind of like that gave me a little bit more insight into her as an author and kind of like that book. And I was probably a little bit more lenient after that because I did that research about halfway through because I was like, it took me about 4 days to read the first half of the book, and I was just like, I'm gonna do a bit of research to see if there's something that's gonna get me over the line.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that. It's like, actually, it was her first book. It kind of explains why she was writing it in the way she was. And there was one thing that really did annoy me and it stopped halfway through. It was like it was edited by two different people as well, because in
Okay.
the
All
first
right.
half of the book there was a lot of italics used. So I didn't listen to the audiobook, I read it. So,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of italics used for when like thinking and stuff like that that just kind of like stopped halfway through the book. And so it was just like lots of italics
And then
at the
none.
first half and then none. And I was like, it's like somebody, two different people edited it to say,
Yeah,
stop doing
it
that.
changes the impact of what the characters are thinking and how it separates their thoughts to speech as well, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
so that's a hard change in the middle of a book, I think.
Yeah, it was. But overall, yeah, I think the story was it was very engaging. Like, this again, from my point of view, is that it took a little bit of while getting in because the characters were so young.
Yes.
Like, all the main characters are late teens, early 20s, and being a 40-year-old man, there was a kind of like a little bit of a struggle, kind of like getting an understanding of those characters and their motivations, because
Yeah.
it's been a long time since I've been that age. So yeah, it took me a little bit while to get into it, but overall I thought it was a really good book. I mean, why is it one of your favorite books?
So for me, I think it's not so much that Throne of Glass per se. The book itself is a favorite book of mine, but the series as its entirety absolutely is. And without, obviously, I'm not going to give anything away with anything that happens from book one onwards, because I would love the idea of you maybe venturing out and finishing it later on. But for me, the character development from book one onwards and the way the story develops, the world building and how you understand the magic systems and stuff like that is just one on its own. Like, I've not read a series that's like this one on its own, and it's got its proper, like, a proper own Roman Empire, and it's not heavy on the romance side. This is not a romantasy, I would say. Like, it is an epic fantasy, with probably a mild element of romance underneath it, kind of similar to how like Brandon Sanderson writes his romance in his. And it's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful story to explore, and I loved every minute of it. I read it so quickly as well. Like, I think I read it within probably about 2 months all in. So I really indulged it, but I can't say too much of why I loved it because I don't want to ruin it.
So, well, thinking obviously back to that first book, what was it that in that first book kind of made you want to read the rest of the series?
I think for me, I obviously read it at a different time. I'm not a 40-year-old man. So I really did like the idea. I'm not by any means, I'm built like SpongeBob, and I'm not somebody that can like go out and fight these battles and be this assassin style person. But I love the idea of it, that this person that's described similar to, not necessarily similar to me, but similar to people I can identify in my world, that I'm like, that's fucking badass. Like, it's just so cool. That is just so cool. And that is the kind of person all around that's got the hard exterior but can be vulnerable. That's the kind of character I would love to be. So I think finding a bit of that in Selena, and then seeing how her relationships grow and the actual sort of journey she goes on, the actual quest and stuff that they go on, I want to be that. I want to do that. And it makes me intrigued, and it makes me want to follow that journey so that I can feel like that's where I am. And that's why I loved that first book, because it gave me a place where I found that for a good while.
And was there any characters that you didn't like how they were written, or you didn't kind of like vibe with, or obviously there's going to be the baddies that you don't like realistically, but was there anybody you thought, actually, I don't see the point of that character being there, or it didn't add anything?
Oh, I'm gonna hurt people's feelings if I answer that question, but it's not necessarily based on book one. It kind of is, but it goes through. Oh, do I say it? Do I tell you? It's not a massive spoiler because it's in book one. Chaol. Chaol. We don't like Chaol.
Okay, right, okay.
And I've got lots and lots of reasons why, but without spoiling it, we just don't like him. And I also, actually, I don't like the way Dorian is presented either. I think he comes in as a bit of a character of it presents him in a way as a prince, which is what he's supposed to be presented as, which is exactly what you need to see. But then at the same time, it's not who he is. So I don't know. I don't know. Without I don't want to spoil anything, but without I don't want to go too far. But as far as that is it. That they're just those two.
Yeah, I suppose there wasn't really a lot outside of those three. Like there wasn't a lot of character development. Like I felt the king could have done with a little bit more.
Yeah,
Because the baddies didn't really have a lot of substance to them. If I like thinking of like who the baddies were, obviously you had the big bad other champion whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was really it. Like they touched on the Duke and they touched on the King being these bad guys in this first book, but there was no kind of like big villain. And I think that maybe for me was like I wanted a little bit more depth in terms of
of
who the
as to
villain was
where the
going to be.
bad, where's the bad coming from? So you'd like a little bit more of that going into book two, whereas I feel like the focus of book one is more this champion competition, and it's about that, isn't it? Being able to do that next thing. So I think you get the conclusion to that, but you're right, because of that, it probably dims a lot of why, or a lot of where the bad comes from, shall we say?
Yeah, and I think that's what you need because I think there's nobody to hate, and I know that sounds bad, but you either need somebody to hate or you need kind of like a villain that you can identify with, who's you can understand their reasoning. But you
Yeah,
didn't really have that either way in this book. You kind of like you had a mild dislike for people because there was no real substance behind it. But again, that's a new author exploring how to write.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I just feel that there needed to be a bigger baddie in it.
like a bigger
By the
a
way,
bigger villain arc.
yeah, I wasn't going to say this because you keep saying it, but I'm already midway through book three. So
Are you really? I love that. Yes. So, right. So you definitely liked book one enough to get into book two. And
yeah,
maybe the fact that you actually didn't quite get enough of that villain was like, I need to know though. I need to know.
no, well, it wasn't even that. It was because I'll be honest, it's been my issue all the way through. The fact that the villains aren't very villainous. Like
Right.
even in book two and in the book three, like the king is not like there is still no substance to the king. There's no
Yeah.
substance to any of the bad guys. There's lots of ominous speculation that potentially in book one was good, but when you're mid book three and you still don't really have a big interaction with a main villain, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I get the motivations.
So 1, 2, 3. So you've read up to book three. So currently you're on Air of Fire,
Yeah,
and you've skipped Assassin's Blade. So you've not read that, I'm assuming.
no, I didn't read the prequels. No, I just went in order of like the publication, kind of like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, rather than because I didn't want to
Sorry,
read.
that's me looking at my shelf to figure out
Yeah,
which
yeah,
which book
yeah.
you're at.
No, yeah, because I didn't read the ones that were released earlier that gave more of a because I was like I wanted
Yeah,
to read it in like the book that you gave me and then read it kind of like in that order.
like the
Um,
chronological order.
yeah, so for me, I just think that from my point of view, I either want to identify with the villain or I want to hate the villain,
Yeah,
and I really at this point don't like the villain hasn't really come into it in the third book. There's no been real massive interactions with the big
it's
bad, and I'm like,
it's slow. It's slow. I admit it's slow. I feel like there's a lot of information gathering. There's a lot of building of situations going on throughout Throne of Glass. Like the entire series, there is a lot of like journeying to find the next thing, or to get this, or to train to do this. There is an awful lot of that, and I feel like if you don't if you don't know that going into it and you're used to the quite hefty questful like fantasy books where they're going basically through battle to battle, it's not that. It very much is a journey to get to an end, where and when you get towards that, that is when you really see the villain as the villain, and you really see everything will come together. I promise you, it will all come together.
Yeah, and I get that, and I'm sure it will. But it's not even like jumping from battle to battle. It's more just I want to see the villain. Like there is a lot of focus on obviously the three main characters,
Yes.
Selena, Kale, and Dorian, which is fine. But at the moment, there's like I like the witches. The witches are fun. They're great. I
Oh,
love the
should we
witches.
talk about Manon?
So I'm like, she's just got Abraxos to fly the
Abraxas.
Abraxas to fly the canyon. So like that's just starting. So at the moment, it's like I like they're the type of villains that I like because you're like
Yeah.
they're evil, but they're fun evil. I can like that. Whereas the king, I'm like, at the moment, he's just a bit of a dick. Give me some background to the king. With book 3, give me some history, some lore about
Yeah.
him.
You want, yeah. Do you know what? I fully understand that. I think me knowing the full story is not helping my clear bias here, right?
No.
But I do get what you're saying. Like, do you want something to be scared of? What are they doing all this for? Like, they're not really giving you a clear reason. Like, yes, they're scared of all this, and this is a bad thing to happen, but what actually is it?
Yeah.
That's what you want, and you get it. I promise it comes. But
Yeah.
I understand. I think in most other situations, I'd be with you, and I'd want that fear as well.
Yeah. I just want. Yeah. I want to. I want to feel a sense of peril that
Yes.
something big is on the way. And so far, while obviously, as somebody who reads a lot of fantasy, I know something big and bad is on the way, but I'm not feeling
You're not
that peril
feeling.
as of yet. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm I'm waiting. I'm hoping. So we will see how it goes and how it comes.
That is
But
awesome. I'm very
yeah,
curious on what you think of when you get to the end. And obviously, you're also reading, so we know this now. You're reading the books in a different order to what I have. I there's a couple of different ways you can read Throne of Glass, but obviously you're taking like the traditional route. You're going to read it chronologically. I did not do that, so just a disclaimer. When I read Throne of Glass, I did the tandem read. I read Assassin's Blade third, so and I did Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms together. So that was a whole experience.
are they later on books or are they a different
Yeah,
series
yeah.
altogether?
No, there's the later on books in the Throne of Glass series. It's
Okay.
so basically fans found a way that they can read two of the books chronologically, so that you're not reading this like stuff that happens at exactly the same time separately, if that makes sense, because it's in two separate books. Because one book follows one group of people and the other book follows another group of people, and so on. So
Fair.
it just puts it chronologically. But I won't put you through that unless you want it.
No,
I've got it in my notes on my phone if you need it.
no, I'll read the. I got to read them in my order. But yeah, going back to the witches, I love that. Yeah, they're
Yes.
great. The witches. I'm a big fan of the witches. Like I'll be honest, I wasn't to begin with when they first introduced the witch in when she was in the traveling fair type thing. I was like,
Yes.
But then when they actually
Yellow Legs.
yellow legs, yeah, Baba Yellow Legs,
Yes.
yellow legs. But anyway, yeah, that was kind of like a bit. But then when they actually fleshed, again, that was one of those things where it kind of like was a little bit of a underwhelming character development. It was like we're going to chuck this witch in there, and that's it. Until I think they didn't bring Manon in until quite a lot later.
Yeah, it is a bit after.
And it's like, oh right, okay, these witches actually, but there was no, it just felt
there
was
no link to it as such.
Yeah, and there was, it just felt again some of the character development I feel needs a lot of work, and I'm sure as she gets more experience as a writer, and
Yeah.
introduce new characters, that will happen. But yeah, for me, it was just like a little bit of a. I'm like, give me.
I think,
Oh,
yeah, okay, so I get where you're coming from with that particular part, but actually thinking about it, it tells you about something that's important later on. So obviously I can spoil it. We've already spoke about it. So it's obviously Selena murders Yellow Legs, doesn't she?
yeah,
Um, and that leaves a mark on her, and that's the information we got from that scene. That was the important part because it was important later on. So as much as like it was a little dip the toe into the witches scenario, I don't think it was there for the point of building up the witches storyline. It was more there just to back the point of what Selena's going to face later on.
yeah. But I think that's the thing, is that it felt like it was a throwaway character that then she decided later on would
Was a bit
flesh out.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, for me, it's that was my. But again, in terms of my enjoyment of the book, it didn't take, or the books as it is, it hasn't
Yeah.
taken fully away kind of like how I've enjoyed them. I just think it's something that could have been done better. I think overall the story is, I like the story.
Yeah.
Um, there's yeah, I think overall it's good. I think the fact that the romance side of things isn't heavy. I also, there is a little bit of annoyingness of Selena's flip flopping, and
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never.
The
It's like,
Kale, Dorian.
it's not even. It's that, but every time it started the same. Like it was, we're just friends, but he's pretty. We're just friends, but he's pretty. And then I don't know what's going to happen with the half Fae guy. Not the half Fae, the full Fae prince, Rowan. But it kind of like it's following the same pattern, and I'm like, I really hope it doesn't go down the same route because that's going to be really annoying.
Yeah, okay. I
So
think that I get that. I think that's when we go back to remembering what it's a YA, like it is a young adult,
yeah,
and that is a key. I won't like I've reread of it. It's a key thing when it comes to a young adult, and with any sort of like little
oh,
romance in it, because it's a very teenager way of dealing with relationships in a sense as
oh
well,
yeah,
isn't it?
100%. It's
And it shows that it shows obviously Sarah's inexperience with relationships back then when she was writing them as well. I think that's like a big difference. It's like the almost the innocence of it, I suppose. But I get it. I do agree because I spent the entire time going, "Will you just pick?" So I
yeah,
agree
and
with you. I do. It is annoying.
it is, and I think that's the thing, is that while I'm enjoying the story, there are elements that I'm just like, but that's coming from the fact that it's not written for somebody like me. It's written for young adults, predominantly probably aimed at young women as well, because the characters are identifiable to young women, both as
Yeah.
Selena as herself and the male characters as love interests. Kind of like you've got the two versions. You've got essentially, yes, I am going to swear, the fuck boy and the protector, which is pretty much most young men. What you get,
Yeah.
they'll fall
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
white knight. They'll fall into white knight or fuck boy, and kind of
White knight.
like
Do
I
you
think.
know what I feel like we should get that on a t-shirt? You're either a white knight or a fuckboy.
Well, it's true. Is and I think that's what's come across like in terms of her writing was that that was her experience of probably men at that point, was
Yeah.
that, and that's what those two characters are. Like obviously as we're getting through, Dorian is fleshing out a little bit more. um Kale is just a wimp and he's really annoying.
Oh my god. So when I said a minute ago, so obviously I didn't at that point when I said that I didn't know you'd carried on reading. Did you know? Did you know that it was going to be him? Because oh my
Yeah,
god, oh
like
my
I
god, that man.
yeah, I get like where he's coming from in
Oh
certain
yeah,
aspects,
we can all understand, but why is
but
he behaving like that?
I I don't know. It's very very odd.
He's just a bit of a.
I
I
like
think he's a bit
I
of a
know,
wet
no,
wipe.
I do get like when you look at the White Knight syndrome type thing, he is very much that. I am going to do
Yeah.
everything I can, but he's also not very intelligent. So I
Yeah.
just for me, like yeah, I don't. I'll be honest. Dorian annoys me as well. I'm not particularly fan of either of them as like not necessarily like the way the characters are written is all right, but I'm just in terms of the characters of the
Yeah,
people.
the actual people. Like, if you was to make friends with these two characters, you'd be like, oh, nah.
Yeah,
No, thanks.
The cousin, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Is it Aedon or Aedion?
Adian.
Aedion. Yeah, I like him. Him I like. He's fun. He kills people. He's got
We
fun
like Adian. We do.
So yeah. I liked his character arc. I liked it. I would have just liked it to be a bit longer before we went from he's a bad guy to a good guy. I think we could have had a little bit more of.
Yeah. I think it's where that opinion comes from. I think it's the idea that actually that's not, because it's not Selena's opinion of him, and it's not it's not a broad opinion of him that he is a bad guy. It's Dorian that doesn't like him. I think that's why it kind of passes. It's a bit passive.
Well,
and Chaol. No, Chaol. Sorry, wrong way around. It's Chaol that doesn't like him. Sorry, that's my bad.
Well, no, neither of them like him. But also, like, the way he's introduced is he's a traitor to his country.
Yes.
As well, and
a traitor person as well.
And then it kind of like it doesn't really kind of like you don't get. It would have been better to have an interaction with Selena and him to get that he's a traitor. She hates him because he's a traitor, kind of, or at least a little bit more of that. Like maybe not interaction, but kind of like she's when he arrives at the castle, have it before she's sent away, so that while they don't actually interact with each other, she's avoiding him because of her hatred of him, because he betrayed their country. But there was none of that. It was kind of like he betrayed the country, and then within the space of half a book, it's like, actually, no, he didn't. He's actually a really nice guy. And it's like, well, again, it's that building that character up before you pay off the switch of that character.
Yeah.
I just felt that there could have been more of him to dislike, so that when it turned out he was actually a good guy, there was more of a payoff in terms of like you going, oh, actually, instead it was kind of like,
it's a bit more satisfying when they get good, then, isn't it? I do know what you're saying. Yeah.
And I think that was the thing, is that you wanted him to be a bit more morally grey. I don't know if more comes out and later in the books that shows that he is, but yeah, I wanted more of him kind of like being like, I'm a bad guy, and then yes, I'm a good guy, but I've done some pretty heinous things. Because even though Selena is,
I was going to say, I think that's the underlining for a lot of. I'll be honest, I do think that's like the brief underlining for a lot of the characters in this story. Actually, like I've done a lot of bad things, but I think that is it. I think you can run that theme under everybody, but I think I get what you mean. Under some people, it's a little bit. So under like Selena and your main characters, you are going to get the real punch with it, but with Adian, it kind of fell a bit flat.
See, I thought it was flat with Selena as well, because that was the thing when we didn't get that build up of she's hard and before we got the vulnerable, we didn't get that build, and that's what I was talking about in terms of the way she writes characters.
One or the other, yeah.
It's there's no build up to give a payoff when you find something new out about the character. It's like, this is the character and this is all aspects of them pretty much straight away. So, and that was the thing with Selena at the beginning, is that I wanted her to be a really hard assassin. Like, I'm an assassin, I kill people, grr, 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 for the first half of the book. And then it's like, something happens, and you start to see her vulnerable side open up to either Dorian or Chaol. And then you get it like through the book. But you kind of like within the first 3 or 4 chapters, it's like, I'm a hard assassin. I've got out of the assassin. Oh, look, the pretty lights in the sky and what a beautiful city it is. It's like, no, I don't want that so soon. I want you to be hard and kind of like cut off from the world, a cold-hearted assassin who's been in prison for this long, and then move on to kind of like, actually, I've got a vulnerable side.
I do totally agree with you, if I'm honest, and I get completely where you're coming from, and I think you kind of made me think about why it's like that. And to me, I think it's because one, especially with it being a YA, I think it makes the emotions a little bit more digestible, and who the characters are a little bit more digestible, especially for someone younger. But like, us being a little bit older, we understand what emotions feel like and how like humans work. So like, it's not hard for us to commit to that hard energy for a good like first half of a book to then get that shock impact. But I think in this particular book, the way it's written and the way it's balanced out, is more the fact that the emotions are digestible and it's more like real life, because you're never completely hard at any one time and you're never completely vulnerable at any one time. I don't think like you can. Gosh, we're human. We flip flop. I could be completely vulnerable for 10 minutes and then absolutely angry the next. So like I think it's more she's clearly written it younger. She's written it in a way where she understands the emotions rather than how the emotions would have the best impact.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as I said, it hasn't stopped me enjoying the book. It makes me sound like I really have an issue with her writing, and I don't.
No,
I
I
really
like
enjoy
it.
it.
No, it's no, because the thing is, all you're doing is talking about how you've read it. Like, it's
Yeah.
not that you've not enjoyed it and you've not said it's rubbish. I don't like this. It's funny. We're never gonna read it again. You're on book free, so you've clearly enjoyed it enough
Oh yeah, yeah. I like.
to get through.
I after that first initial like getting past that first half of the first book, I've read it pretty much solidly every day. Like I've been reading like before I go to bed every night, like a couple of chapters and stuff like that. And on weekends when I've had time, I've read like for a good like hour long sessions. So it is engaged. It's a very engaging series, and it's interesting. It is very interesting as well. Like reading like this type of book because I've never really read what would be considered a YA book because when I was reading fantasy, I started fantasy reading kind of like quite adult level fantasy, whereas this is obviously aimed at people who are in their teenage and early 20s, and I've never really read anything like this, so it's quite interesting to see what the younger generation, that makes me sound really fucking old, what the younger
What the younger
generation
generation.
are reading, and what kind of also kind of like how are the tropes that I've read in my books kind of like you see influences, whether or not they're direct influences, but definitely you see influences from like the really experienced and older authors.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a couple of authors, Tracy Wise and Margaret Hickman, who wrote the Dragonlance series. Again, a great series that we might touch on later on.
Oh
Um,
well.
but like they did a lot of like dragons and fantasy stuff, and like I definitely see some of that. Whether or not I don't know who Sarah J. Maas's inspirations were or what she would have read at this time or what kind of stuff, but whether or not it's something that's directly influenced her or it's just come through like various different kind of like things that she's read that's been influenced by those types of authors. But yeah, you definitely can see like somebody who loves fantasy and isn't just writing it for the sake of writing it, which you do find with I found with some authors. You read them and you're like, this is fantasies for fantasy's sake, whereas this is
Yes.
actually telling a story through. It's telling it. All good fantasy is telling the author's own story through the medium of their characters, and you definitely get the feeling that she is writing. So obviously, in her life, she will have had a Chaol and a Dorian that she
Yeah.
engaged with, and you can tell that from the way the interactions are written. Is that it's written like
Oh
she's
yeah.
been in that situation. So, and I think that's really important in terms of how to make a book engaging. It's not. It's all about putting your own emotions into it, and I think she's done that really well. Um, like, and I think that's where potentially the fact that the lack of maybe character development in the style that I would generally like, it's been overcome by the fact that the story is engaging and there's a clear connection between the writer and the characters.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's. I think that, if you're gonna get anything out of any sort of book, that's it, innit? That is what you want. That sort of response in a world where you're invested in the story, regardless of the like absolute minute details of what goes into it. It's the fact that you want to keep reading, you want to go on the adventure, and you want to feel the emotions of these characters. It's awesome. That's all anyone should want from their book. If one person feels like that, they've done it right, haven't they?
No, I agree. So yeah, overall, solid, solid intro into the world of YA
Yeah.
fiction.
And we'll explore loads of it because I'm excited to see what other because I don't just read YA. We read a lot of actual like
Yeah.
fantasy. We read a lot of romantasy, which will be coming, and stuff like that. So I'm quite excited to see how you go on to read these other types of books.
Cool. Right. So the book that I chose was
Yeah.
Stormfront by Jim Butcher, one of my favorite books. So first of all, Charlie, did you like the book?
50-50, yes and no. I enjoyed
Okay.
the second. So like you, actually, funny enough, like you, I enjoyed the second half much more than I enjoyed the first half.
Okay.
But yeah, I enjoyed it enough.
Okay. So talk us through what it is that you liked and didn't like about.
Right. So I won't lie, I got to the fact like, it was the first couple of pages, I was like, oh shit, really? Right. So I didn't look into this book too much before going into it. I knew the author. I didn't read the blurb. I literally did not look into anything at all. So I just started reading it, and then I saw it's a wizard called Harry, and the book was released in 2005. So that's the first thing I've got to address. Could he not have picked another name? Could he not have picked another name? I don't mean this in an awful way. It's absolutely fine, but it just feels a little bit jumping on the Harry Potter hysteria. A little bit, just a little bit. It's like there's this big thing, this massive thing for kids that's just come out, and it's going absolutely wild. Let's throw something in there for adults. I get it, I understand, but that is where my brain, literally within the first like three pages, once I found out his name being Harry Dresden, once I realised his name, I was like, oh come on.
Yeah, I'll address that issue later on. So what else? What are you?
So the other thing I didn't like was Harry himself for a good amount of the book, if I'm honest. I know I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I can explain why. But I can also totally understand. I've written notes on this as well. I can understand why other people like him. I get why he's likable. It's just kind of the exact reason I don't like him.
Why don't you like him?
Well, let me so he's just rude for one. He's just really rude, and he comes across as a mix between I'm the victim and I'm very arrogant. And I don't know, right? And he is, in a sense, he is. He's got a lot of pressure on him. The poor man is the only wizard in Chicago, right? And he's also gets himself into a little bit of trouble. So like I understand where it comes from, but like from the off, the way he speaks to people and his internal monologue to me is just quite rude. And there isn't enough, like I don't think there's enough built up sympathy for him to warrant that sort of attitude he's got. He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I don't know if it's a bit of a defense mechanism. And I feel like as I got through later into the book, he kind of dropped it a little bit. But for me, when he dropped it, it was a bit too late. Like I was like, I'd already developed a bit of a deep meh. I don't actually kind of like you sort of thing by the time he became a bit more human. Where do I start? So obviously, like, he's a professional wizard in Chicago, a private investigator, and a magical consultant for the Chicago police. That's the biggest thing. Like, that's the main thing about that we learn about him early on. And there's a massive brutal murder, like a magical murder, where a man and a woman hearts explode out of their chest while doing the dirty, and that was so that happens quite early on. You get there in chapter, I think around chapter 2, where you get to the murder scene and you meet Murphy and you meet some other characters, and we really like that. But I hate, and I mean hate, probably maybe a little bit not as hatey as I actually said that. I don't maybe hate's too strong of a word. I don't love, let's go with that. I don't love how women are written in this book. And I don't know how that reads to you, but to me it was awful.
Why? What don't you like about the way the women are written?
So women are quite heavily objectified in this book. In a way that, so when they enter a room, the way Harry thinks about them, especially because he's got this bit of an, I don't know how to explain it, a bit of a nice guy mentality where he's like, I'm not that pervy guy, but then in the next sentence he's perving on her.
See, I got it very different. Now, see, one thing, the way I see it is because it's written in first person.
Yeah.
Like, it's not written, so this is how he's thinking, and it's a very genuine way of how a lot of men think. And
I agree. I know.
And I think that's why maybe I do like it, is because you can be a decent guy, but you're still gonna, in the nicest possible way, when a pretty woman walks into a bar, you're gonna look at her as a pretty woman.
Yeah, and I agree. I do agree.
And I think there are, I mean, with Murphy, I like, I don't think Murphy, especially in the first couple of chapters, I don't think, obviously he describes her, but I don't think he objectifies her.
Not quite, not Murphy quite so much. She is described as a very attractive woman, and he goes into detail about what that attractiveness means, and like describes what that is for her. Not Murphy as such, that quite that early on, but it was the first thing. But then it goes on to the murder scene, right? And that's we're getting the Kindle, right? Because I actually highlighted it. And I get the thought process, but for me it was just a bit distasteful. And I think it's because, again, I'll give credit to the books that I tend to read now. I read obviously a lot of romantasy. The attitude towards women and the way men are written in those books are so different. So we've got to give some credit to that for my little bias here, because I'm used to that kind of writing. So it's not quite as romantic, which is fun, and I actually really did enjoy parts of it. So immediately, right? Okay, so this bit I actually did because I thought it was funny. So the first part we get when he goes in to see the crime scene. Obviously, these two people have died during intercourse, so they're in a very compromising position, right? And obviously, he points that out. That bit's fine, and he's like, and he explains how like the position they're in, and then follows it up with a quick kinky. I enjoyed that. That bit made me laugh. But then it goes a bit too far. And then he talks about how her breasts, this dead woman whose chest has exploded, might I add, her breasts making a lovely outline. And I was just like, oh, come on, bit distasteful. And then he goes on to quite graphically describe exactly what they look like, as in like the two people and how they're dead. And then follows up with, it definitely cut down the erotic potential. And I was like, you're talking about a murder scene, man. A murder scene. Two people have been killed by magic, and you're talking about the fact it's lost its erotic potential. Shouldn't have had any.
I think that, again, I think this is from coming from different schools of reading and stuff like that. See, for me, I found that really hilarious. Like, and again, I like, for me, it's like the way it's written, because it's first person. It's that inner monologue that you have that is very inappropriate.
Yeah.
When you go into a situation where you are uncomfortable or something strange has happened, you make shit jokes, and whether you say them out loud or not.
You do. You're so right.
And that's where I love these books, is because it is all him telling the story from his point of view and how his brain works. I'm like, I get that. Like, I have been to like funerals where I've sat there and gone, I'm like, something that made me laugh, and you're like, I can't say that, but my inner monologue is telling me all this stuff, and that's kind of like,
that's so real. You are so right. And
I get why. And I suppose as well, I don't know, in terms of the books you've read, have you read many first person stories, or is it mainly third person?
I've read quite a few first person stories actually, but I think what I say maybe set me up wrong with this book a little bit as well is that I switched between reading on my Kindle and the audiobook. I think the narrator of the audiobook had a turn that gave him that bit of attitude. And it made a lot of what he said quite definite, like he meant everything. Does that make sense? So like he's saying it in a way that like it just means everything he says. I can't explain it without playing a clip, and obviously
No,
I can't play a clip.
it's one of the reasons why I did like when I worked at random segue at Amazon in the picking section, I used to have audio books or music on, and I was in the middle of a reread of this, and I put it on, and as much as I love James Masters as an actor, as the voice of Harry Dresden, he didn't suit it for me. It was not the Harry that I knew. So I think for me, like, yeah, I agree. I don't think he was the right choice of narrator for those books,
Yeah,
because when I read Harry, I read that sarcasm and that kind of like humor of like, I'm in a really awkward situation, I'm just going to talk shit, whether
yeah.
you're
Whereas
saying it out loud or in your head.
yeah, and whereas he says it in a way where it's like it's actually. Do you know where sarcasm's hilarious when it's got the right tone to it? And I think he said it in a way where the sarcasm was actually quite rude, and it was received as rude throughout that audiobook rather than, which is probably why I took it the way I did. And as well, like I think I'm not I'm not exactly like I'm not exactly the audience for this book, and I think I can admit that it's not written for me. So it's not written for me to necessarily relate to. It's written for me to maybe enjoy, but not relate to. I'm not the target audience of this book to then go, you should relate to this character. I am not going to relate to Harry Dresden, but I do relate to the women he talks down to in his brain. And I only say slightly talks down to, and this is when I'm gonna go back to one little thing about the women comment where I would say I don't like women. I don't like the way women are written in this book. The only other thing that I genuinely did not like, and then I'll tell you what I did like. I will go on to what I actually did like. The only other thing that I genuinely didn't like is the double standards throughout. So Harry was quite pervy throughout, on and off. That's fine. Again, we've established that that's like quite a real experience. You are so right, and I won't lie. Women are just as pervy as men. We can all relate to this person. The one thing I didn't like is that he could have that behaviour, but then when a character a bit later on was under a love potion and was acting maybe outside of their normal impulses and hitting on him and flirting with him, he kept saying she was unladylike. And that annoyed me. And I know that's of its time. And I know that's like way back when. But I'm sorry. That woman is just as entitled to be as sexy and pervy as you are without being judged. Thank you very much, Harry Dresden. But that's it. So that's the only other real issue I had with it. And I think that's fair. What do you mean, unladylike? Clear off.
I would disagree with that quite heavily, because I've read books and that where women quite regularly say somebody is being ungentlemanly, and that's
Oh.
would you have the same reaction if the roles were reversed and somebody said that was an ungentlemanly comment, or would it more be that you don't like it being saying unladylike because it is perceived that, you know, but again, this is an internal monologue of his.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in my head, like, there is an element of like jokiness about it being unladylike.
Yeah, I think again they definitely would be, and I think I lost the tone. I'll be honest, I think I lost the tone with the audiobook. But my only thing with that is I thought it was funny, but at the same time I was like, the double standard. Why are they allowed? Why are they allowed to be a pervert? She ain't.
And again, I think again, for me, I kind of like that, not as a person I like that, but as in writing, the way he's writing it as a real person.
Yeah.
Because in our own lives, we all have double standards.
Oh yeah, of course we do.
And that's the thing that for me that kind of like I like about it, is that he's not trying to be a white knight, and he's
No,
not trying to
he ain't.
be a fuckboy. He's trying to be he's trying to write a real human who has flaws, and realistically, again, I can identify with him because when I started reading these books, I was of an age that, you know, what this first book came out in 2000, so I would have been 15 then. So I don't think I read it until I was like in my early to mid 20s, the first one. So which is at the same kind of age that Harry is in the books. So I kind of got that whole nervousness and being uncomfortable, and the fact that, and I think what I like about it is that, yes, he, like when Susan comes onto him and stuff like that, that whole oh, that's unladylike is almost that reaction to, oh shit, there's a hot woman trying on with me, and what do I do? How do I think about this? What, you know, like that uncomfortableness of being essentially the geek that the pretty girl is then hitting on, and you're like, fuck me, what do I do? What, like, I want this, but what do I do?
Yeah, I see. Do you know, I feel like what was missing for me then, like, and I get where you've got that idea of the situation. I think what was missing for me, especially early on, is that character building where I actually understood Harry's brain. Like, we get it, you get it throughout, and you get a better development literally from chapter 21 to the end. That is great, but for me, I'd have liked a bit more early on to be a bit more inside his brain and have a bit more understanding of him, so that when situations like that came up, maybe I'd have a bit more sympathy, or I'd have a more understanding. Whereas up until literally later on in the book, for me, he had all of these conversations and did these different things and met these different people. He was quite rude to a lot of people. There was the odd person he wasn't, and we got reasons to why he wasn't and why he liked them and stuff like that. But he was quite rude until he wasn't. And for me, I'd have maybe not perceived those situations as rude, and I'd maybe found him a bit more funny if I'd have known his brain and his understanding of that first. If that makes sense. I'd have just like to know who he is and what he's thinking a bit more early on. It goes straight into his internal monologue and his day to day. You'll learn more about how he thinks and feels throughout the book, but I don't know enough about him to like him enough earlier on. Like, I need a bit more if he's going to have a bit of an attitude and a bit of sarcastic. If you're going to be a bit witty, give me a bit more of who you are first.
That's fair. I can get that. Yeah, I can see it from the fact that it is, the character is probably at this state. Again, this is really hard because I have read this series so much, and there are 17 books, so it's going on to the 18th. So you learn more about him as it goes along. So what did you like about the book?
What did I like? Okay, so I thought the magic system was really clever, for one. It's simple, but I did really enjoy it. So where did I write? So, like, obviously there's the White Council, which I enjoyed because he's got pressure from two different sides, and he's got this moral obligation to both, in a sense. So, like, he's got the Chicago police at one side, where he's got the justice system of the normal world, and then he's got the magic system of the other, like I say, the other world. They call it the Never Never, don't they? So the White Council manages like the laws of magic, and like the ideas of the laws of magic is that, like, there's no killing with magic, because life itself gives magic, creates magic. So you don't take life with magic, because that's like taking life with the thing that created it, right? Yeah. So I'm so glad I got that off the top of my head. I was like quite impressed. I really enjoyed that. There was no mind control, no transformation of others, and you learn that there's no necromancy, which is, for me, when I've read an awful lot of fantasy books, this is quite a standard like magic system, but he's done it in a way that's actually quite solo to him. So, like, he's interacted the elements, but they're not a massive deal. But then he's also like integrated the idea of ritual magic compared to the raw magic they can create, so they can do spells and stuff like that. But it all depends on where they draw their energy from, but it comes from within themselves. I loved that because it's all based on emotion, and it means that emotions matter, which is why I think I found Harry so dislikable till towards the end, when we started discovering how he really feels about certain situations, because he had to then power how he feels about things into his magic, and we got to see him really be a wizard rather than the little bits of potion, the odd spell he'd done throughout. We actually get to see him be a wizard guy and take on the villain. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that he was a bit of an anti-hero, because he's reluctant. He don't want to do it, and he makes you know it all the way through. And I quite I'm a mix between, again, it was part of it that I actually liked about him because he was honest about it, but after a while, again, it was a bit like, you wouldn't do it if you didn't care about it, and then you found out right at the end he really does care about it, he really does care about magic, and he cares about doing it the right way. He really respects the rules he's got to follow, and he really wants to be good at it and do the right thing, I think. So, like, there is a lot I did like about it. It was just that very one specific problem I had. What else did we write about why we did like it? I think the villain is clever. I think the point of what the story's trying to teach is clever. So it's the idea that anybody with an unruly amount of power, so a power with no constraint, is just going to consume somebody. Um,
Hmm.
and I did really enjoy that. So, like, Victor obviously taking on exploiting the powers from the storms to take on this magic, and then Harry breaks his circle, and that magic creates chaos. And in the end, that chaos was the undoing of him, wasn't it? And I thought it was really clever. I did find that it was quite obvious from the beginning that Victor was going to be the villain. And I've realised I've just completely spoiled it, so spoiler, sorry. um, so yeah, I did find, like, quite early on, like, once he'd met Monica Sells, once he'd met Monica Sells, I did realise pretty immediately. I was like, oh, it's gonna be her husband.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't think it was meant to be a who done it kind of thing. I think it was meant to be a bit obvious. Otherwise, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. But if it was either really shitty writing or it was meant to be obvious that that was going to be the bad guy. It was
Yeah,
just Harry.
how has he done it? What has this
Yeah, I'm.
one man done? I do have to tell you about another comment that I made actually before I continue with me following through the story and working out what I thought about it. When he met, what's his name? Johnny. Did I write his name?
Johnny
The
Marco.
mafia.
Johnny Marco.
Yeah, the
Johnny
mafia
Marco.
man. Right. Where's my note on him? Because it was funny and I enjoyed it. Up one.
I love Johnny. Johnny Marcone is one of my favorite characters, and if you do end up reading the rest of the series, you'll understand why.
I put. Where are you? Looking for my note. Maybe it was a bit. Oh yeah, it's a bit further down. He got kidnapped a bit later on, didn't he? Ah, there we go. Gentleman Johnny. I've just seen it. So, do you want the running commentary of when I met Johnny? Because obviously at this point this is quite early on, so we're on page 29, so we're very early on, and I'd already
Yeah.
decided at this point I wasn't sure if I liked Harry, but it turns out I did in fact like Johnny. So one of the comments that I made, so I highlighted, um, it says, "Do not let this man." It says, "Do not let this man." I'm not going to say his name because I don't know how to pronounce it, but do not let this man put your hands around your throat or hand. It looked almost like one of them could manage it. So, like, they was going to struggle, and I'd literally just put the comment. I was like, I'd let him, because of the way it was described. It was described as this salt and peppered mafia man, and I was like, can we have? Where did I put it? I put I'd let him, and then I followed up with. How much we're going to investigate, not to investigate something. So I put they should, and I think they absolutely really should do a side series of a smut series of that character, because I'd read it. He runs the drug empire in a magical, like, with magic. I'm here for it. I want the dark romance of this character. Thank you.
Yeah, I would highly recommend reading more of the series if you want to read more about Gentleman Johnny Marco.
Gentleman Johnny. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think I would. I think I would. So going through the actual story after I've had my Johnny sad note there. I really enjoyed the magic system. I enjoyed the little side characters and how they, like, how he spoke to the fairies, how he's got that Bob on his shelf, the air spirit, that he let out for 24 hours, and I was like, that's gonna bite him in the ass. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that he has this. It's not just him, even though he's the solo wizard, there is other elements that are there to, like, help him, and there's the vampiress. There's loads of other things that are involved in in this guy's magical world. Otherwise, I think if it would have just stayed as a solo, I'm just a wizard and I deal with paranormal things, it wouldn't have made as much sense. But I did like this a lot of the side characters.
Going back to that, how did you find Bianca and how the vampires were written?
At first I thought they were a bit lame, and then I decided that they are quite lame, but I like it because they're not. So I think it's warming up to something a bit later. I don't think we've got the full story of what the vampires are actually like in this, because we got a little glimpse, and the way Harry started, obviously she caught him and he started bleeding, and because he'd started bleeding, the way she responded to that bloodlust was not what it's not to the point of what I expected. Like, she was terrified. Obviously, there is a bigger situation going on, and she was thinking about a lot. But like, she was just like, cover it, cover it, cover it. And I would have expected. I wanted to hear a lot more restraint. I wanted it to be a lot more impactful. But I'm not sure if that was just like a taster for what it could be like later on, rather than giving us a whole picture of what these vampires are like, because we only met that one. There wasn't another one.
Yeah.
So that's my view on it. I think there's more to come with that.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
So yes. So
yeah. I mean, there's a lot. To be honest, what I liked about this book is it was a real good setup for a series. Like it gave you a lot of, I'd like to see a little, like you said, like I'd like to see a bit more about Johnny Marcone. I'd like to see a little, like the vampires, kind of like, is there more to come from them? So I think it's a good. That's what drew me in as well. Like, obviously, I like Harry. Harry is Harry and Bob are like, hence the reason why my logo is a skull called Bob.
I enjoy their dynamic. I do enjoy their dynamic. It's quite fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, sorry, carry on. I interrupted you when you were talking about the story when I got you sidetracked.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I think so. I enjoyed that I forgot where I was at. So the vampire, obviously we've got the vampires. So yeah, and also the one thing at the end of the story, not even just the end of the story, but throughout, it made it clear who his enemies were. So like the vampires being one of them, they did sort of foreshadow that that's going to come back to bite him in the ass later. So like, we didn't hear anything else come of the vampires from that point. So chances are that she's not going to forget whatever she don't forget, and she's going to catch up with him in a couple of books' time, or in the next book, or something like that. It's foreshadowing the next thing rather than just closing off the story. It gives me proper, in a sense, like Lucifer sort of vibes. Where like, I don't know if you've seen the Lucifer series, it gives me that sort of vibes, but I actually think Harry could be cooler. Could be. As I say, I think as well, also bear in mind, right, I've not long just been, not that the world needs to know this, but they're going to know, it's not long just been for a breakup. Men aren't exactly my favourite thing. So he's come at me with this tone, and for all I know, my brain's just gone, no, we're not letting him in, sort of thing. So again, but what I do want to follow up with, the final thoughts, is I loved the last 4 chapters. And I did say I loved the last 4 chapters. So from when he speaks to Monica Sells that last time in chapter 21, either end of 20, beginning of 21, he is talking to her and he feels her emotions. He looks into her soul and he really understands, obviously, that he sees her for who she is. That is the first time we see real empathy from this man that's not for himself. But it's real, and you actually feel it, like through the writing. I read it and I listened to the audiobook at the same time, but through the writing you actually do feel him really understand what she's going through and take on the fact that he wants to be the one to fix it, as reluctant as he is, even though it does save his ass. Because I think this is the problem I have with it, is that underlining thing is that no matter what he's doing, he's saving himself too. But this is the one thing that made me see that he actually cares about the people around him. And then he goes on to find Murphy, who's in danger because of that scorpion we knew was going to be a problem when he put it in his drawer earlier on. You see then as well that he really cares about her too. And you don't get that until at any other point in the book. Even when he sees Lisa after supposed to be going on a date with her, even after he sees her dead and naked, you don't get the real empathy until a bit later on. And then he fully addresses it. So you learn about how he has this respect for magic, how he believes in himself, how he's going to do it for all these people, and that's where you see the revelation of him actually caring about everything that's just happened and not just getting his sarcastic inner monologue all the way through. But I really loved it because it tied it in, and then it actually showed the real difference. So like I feel like the idea of Victor, he was supposed to like represent somebody Harry could have been. So if Harry didn't follow the morals, if he didn't follow his principles, and he wasn't on the right side of what he believes is justice, and didn't respect the magic he like wielded, he could have been Victor. And I think that is like, I thought that was really clever, and I did get that.
Yeah, I find it really interesting how you like when you're like you didn't really get the fact that he really cared about Murphy until the last 4 chapters, whereas I got that in the first time I read it straight away. I was like, this Murphy is his person.
Do you really?
Like, yeah, straight away. Like, and whether this is like potentially a gender thing or like an age thing or just an experience in terms of people's lives, like
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, this is straight away. I was like, she is that's his person, because I definitely got like throughout the one thing he never wanted to do was disappoint her, but he felt he had to do what was
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah.
And that for me kind of like that was my takeaway of that relationship from like the first interaction, which is in what, the first chapter,
I wonder.
second chapter.
Yeah, literally first chapter he meets, and because he meets her in a bar. No, that's somebody else a bit later on. Never mind.
No, that's Susan.
Yeah, it's Susan later on. Yeah, no, it is literally the end of the first chapter because he goes to the crime scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get that actually, and I also think as well, like it shows a lot on how affection's communicated, I guess. I'll be honest, I didn't pick up on it. Like I thought, what I kind of got, and I think I wrote in my notes, is that I think Murphy's one of the bros. Like, because it felt like they definitely had a dynamic, but I didn't feel like it was.
I think that's the
felt
thing.
like it was just respect, maybe just respect.
But that's the thing. I suppose that maybe go back to your earlier comment about how you don't like how the women are written, whereas this woman's not written as a sexual object, and because it wasn't written as a sexual object, it didn't come across to you like there was a affection there.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, as soon as I read that, I'm like, because that's how I am with my friends, whether they're like male or female, is like you've got like I'm like that's how I treat my friends. That's my behavior.
Yeah.
Like when he in that first scene when he tries to run faster than her so he can open the door.
Because it annoys her.
So and for me, I'm like, that's what I do with my friends. It's like if I know something annoys one of my friends, I'm going to do that just to like annoy them and piss them off and see that reaction because it's funny. And for me, that was straight away like that's they're not maybe not a romantic interest, but they are tight and there is there is a bond.
I think. Do you know what? I feel like I completely forgot about that interaction until you said it. Like that actual first bit of where, because he goes on to say about how he does it because it annoys her, but secretly she loves it. Yeah. So I think maybe I just got the turn. I think honestly I think a mix between this. I would like to reread this. I think without the audiobook and actually like see. And now I know your opinion of it, like with a little bit of a different perspective. I wonder if I'd take him in a completely different way.
Yeah, I mean, you might not. You might still think he's a dick.
Yeah, but you might do.
Like him. But I mean, I think that's the thing. I think for me, it's one of the reasons why I struggle really, really badly with audiobooks, is because when I read a book, like that character's talking to me in how I'm reading it. If you're listening to somebody else, you're listening to how their perception of those words are, rather than necessarily how the author's written them. So I understand why audiobooks are good and can be helpful, but for me, I can just never get behind them because I can never get the sense of a character's tone unless I'm reading it in that
in
sense,
your
and I can't. And also, they never sound like how the characters are in my head and things like that. So for me, as I said, I love James Masters and I think he's a great actor. I just, for this, I don't think he was, or maybe it's just my bias against audiobooks anyway, is that he could be great for some people, but for me,
yeah
I feel strongly that reading a character, like, I think listening to an audiobook, maybe after you've read it, then you get a better sense of it. But that's just my personal opinion, is that I've always been kind of like, I can't, they don't sound, if I read it and then listen to the audiobook, then I'm like, that doesn't sound like how he is. And
I flip flop, and I probably get on with it. Like, I can do all of the above, if I'm honest. But it's because I think even when I listen to an audiobook, and a lot of the time, credit, I do both. So like, I'll sit and read it and have the audiobook on, so like double consumption, which actually sounds a little bit overstimulating, but I swear I love it. I flip flop between it, but for me it helps. It helps me get through obviously a little bit more books, and I can do more. I can clean and cook and stuff while I'm listening to the audiobook, and it means that I can carry on reading instead of sitting and having to just sit and read. But I like it because, especially with some pronunciations and it being time effective, and again, just having multiple ways to consume it, it helps me actually be able to read more. But I do also completely get it, because if I listen to somebody's voice and I don't like it, I am not listening to that audiobook at all. There is the odd narrator that I just absolutely can't handle. I can't do. I know people absolutely love dramatized versions where there's a full cast. Clear off. Do I need that many people talking at me? Nah chance. At all. So I do. It's real hit and miss. It's not for everyone, and I think sometimes sitting and reading is an absolute blessing. But my kind of rule with it is that regardless of whether I pick up a book and I'm going to listen to the audiobook, I will sit and read the first 10 chapters regardless. So I will sit and get the full, like, first part of the book in without any sort of other input, because I do think you're right when you say the audiobook kind of decides for you what the character sounds like and stuff like that. And I think that's why it works for me, because I already established what the world's like for me before I kind of go into that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And
I'm gonna have so many memes. Have you seen me? Sorry, I've realised.
Right. I'm just... you probably will have seen, like, mine will be just as bad. I also want to refute something you said earlier on, and it's been bugging me ever since, about the Harry Potter thing. So Harry Potter was originally released in the US in 1998. Dresden Files was the first one, was released in June 2000. So it was well before, like, so it would have been written, the Dresden Files, as Harry Dresden before Harry Potter was released.
Right.
So it wasn't. So it's just, I'm going to defend Mr. Butcher there a little bit.
You are allowed to, and honestly, I did figure there'd probably be some, like, logical explanation for it. Just being as, I suppose, in the generation that I am in, I just immediately looked at that and thought, come on, Mr. Butcher. But I assumed there'd be some logical explanation, because publishing's not that quick, writing's not that quick. He could have established his characters years and years before. And I do appreciate that. Like, to be honest, even if he did, clever marketing, Mr. Butcher. Because, you'd be silly not to. You don't need the whole pie, you just need a slice. And you know what? His slice is pretty great. I will say, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, that's fair. That's not bad. And, as I said, he's done pretty well, because we're in 2025 now. He's releasing the 18th book in the series, and he's written another full fantasy series, and he's in the midst of a second fantasy series as well. He's a prolific writer. I would like to see, kind of like, if you do read further into this one, or giving you one of his other novels to read as well, and see if you like, because the other one is The Furies of Calderon, which is more of an epic fantasy.
Okay.
And then you've got The Astronaut's Windlass, which is like steampunk dystopian fantasy. So it's kind of like, but for you, like, I don't know, have you read a lot of urban fantasy like this before, or is it kind of a new?
This has been realm? I'll be fair. This is not new. I'm not like I'm not a complete novice in that world. Is it what I go for? No. I let's right, okay, we'll be perfect. I've got a knight on my chest. I like the medieval epic fantasy world. I like the swords, the knights, the dragons, the magical, the mythical creatures. I like all of that. Very, very much so, and that is where I would go to normally. The urban
Hmm.
fantasy I do sort of like. I just find it hard to really picture the world that we're living in when it's just Chicago and
Yeah.
it's just the real world, because I live in the real world, and I won't lie, if there is magic here, I am screw you, because I didn't fucking get any. But oh, sorry, swearing.
That's right. I've been throwing all the way through, so it's fine.
So I didn't get any magic, so screw you and all that. But like it's hard to picture in day-to-day life, I think, and I find if you don't put enough work into your magic system and make it make sense for the real world, which is again just what I thought was a little bit missing. I'd like to know why magic is in the real world, or what's kind of going on, like or how that crosses over. I don't think we got a real explanation of that in book one, and that's fine, and we might get it a bit later on, but I don't.
Again, see, this it's really weird the way that we think. I like that there's just this expectation in the thing in their version of Earth. It's just
It's just
that you
there.
don't need an explanation. It's magic is a part of the world. Like most people don't see it, but it's there.
Yeah,
And I also kind of like the idea that that is a metaphor for our world as well. Is that there's so many things that we don't see and can't understand that we just kind of like brush under the carpet
that's actually
and are
so true.
willing to let go. So yeah, yeah, again, it's interesting the difference of views of how.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because, like, for me, I can be quite black and white in that regard. So, like, I like to know why. Like, if you ask a question, I need to know the answer, regardless of what that question is. You could ask me how many beans are approximately in a can of beans. I would then need to know the answer. And just on the off chance you do need the answer to that question, it's roughly 406, I think, something like that. 426 maybe, somewhere around the 400 mark. Anyway, I like to know the ins and outs, and I think with an urban fantasy, you're not always going to get that, and maybe that's why I don't go for
Mm,
them too much, because I want the nitty gritty. I want to spend 16 chapters learning about your world and your magic system, um, to really understand where it comes from or what's happening. But I think maybe if I took a step back and kind of thought, actually, that is what it is, and went into the story again. If I had any idea of what the story was about, I'd have probably gone into it with a bit of a different mindset. I wouldn't have needed all that world building, because I'd have had the idea that actually it's based in Chicago, and so on and so on. I could have maybe dropped it a little bit, but yeah, I think it's just the wanting to. I like details. Give me it. Don't just give me the. It just is.
see, yeah, I suppose for me, it's more. I'm much more character building. Like, don't get me wrong, world building is important and is that, but I would rather have 16 pages of the character rather than 16 pages of telling me how magic came into the world. Like, I'm much more accepting of the idea of the fact it's a fantasy book, magic is going to be in the world. I don't
Yeah,
need to
true.
know why. The premise is there, that it's, you know, magic is magic
Yeah.
and magic is there. How people interact with that magic, that's going to be the interesting point. But how the magic arrived in the world, for me, it's not kind of like
As important.
as important. Yeah.
Yeah, we did get a bit about how we interacted with magic. I think we understood it more towards the end than we do
Hmm.
throughout. Like you get as I say, you get the little bits early on about the fact that there's circles and that you can break the circles, and there's the way he summons the fairy. The fact that he makes potions, and you learn about the fact that, like, depending on ingredients, and what you need to make the potion depends on how you can make it. Sometimes it'll take ages, sometimes it won't. Blah blah blah. And it all depends on the, like, effects and, like, how it affects people. I did really enjoy the way the magic was explained throughout this, actually. And to be honest, there is, like, similar in books I've read before. Like, I think Zodiac Academy does the similar sort of thing where you kind of learn more as they learn more. And that I did enjoy that part of it. And to be honest, I do think I want to read book 2. I think, and I put as my final thoughts. Would I read book 2? I think out of curiosity to find out if that growth stays. Like, so the way that the character ended that book, I would like to see continue. Even if it reverts back to his sarcastic self, I get that, but like, has that character developed continue? He's just been through this really big thing. I hope he doesn't just do a full back 180 to the beginning of the book. Like, where do we go? Does he grow? And what happens next? So I do actually think I'd give book 2 a go. Do I think I'm ever going to read all 19? Probably not. But I do think I'd like to spend a little bit more time with Harry Dresden to find out where it goes.
It'll be interesting to see if you have the same response after book 2 that you don't want to read the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Because
I think I'll know by the end of book 2.
Yeah. I think I knew after book 1. I was like, I love Harry. Harry's great. and I like his dynamic with Murphy. I like his dynamic with Susan as well. I think that for me, like there was a lot of, as a 20
it's funny if he gets the date and he shows up at his apartment. Or his office.
I like the fact that he's a real, he's a real person. There's none of this, I'm not a flawed character. It's going back to something you said, like you didn't like the fact that everything was about how he was saving himself as well as doing the thing.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm like, that's such a real thing.
Yeah,
it's like in real. And again, I suppose this is kind of like the difference between an epic fantasy and an urban fantasy set in our world, is that realistically, how many people are in our world are completely selfless like that? So he is doing the right thing, but doing the right thing is also saving himself. So he's like, actually, this is probably a good thing.
Win-win. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think you're so right. Actually, I think I didn't think of it like that, and I think you forget that the epic fantasies do romanticize the I'm a hero and unapologetically nothing else. I am always gonna put everyone else first, sort of thing. I think, maybe I've just got a little bit too in my hero pocket and forgot that actually there is a little bit of flaws in people. There can be like the real world exists. So whereas normally I go into these fantasy worlds to escape, maybe just maybe not escaping quite our world and understanding that actually this is more where we are.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, again, this is probably who it's aimed at is people like me, who at the time when I was first reading this was like 20 something, very geeky, very in my own shell, kind of like nervous around other people, wanting to believe that there was more out there, and that kind of like, and he was like showing us that actually you can be who you are and still be that hero, even if maybe your motives are not always 100% pure. And for me, it was as somebody who had up until that point only read epic fantasy from a fantasy genre, I like a lot of the books that I'll show you are very similar in terms of the fact that I very rarely read heroes who are heroes. They are like, I like the flawed anti-hero much more. I feel that they're a lot more relatable.
I do agree with that. Absolutely, and I think we'll have a bit of a crossover with the books I recommend you with that as well. As much as I did just describe, obviously, like the one in that perfect hero, but there ain't a lot of them out there. I'll be fair, unless you're going fairy tale, and then you've got the Prince Charmings and stuff. But we like a flawed hero. We do like a flawed hero.
We do, and sorry that when you said Prince Charming, you reminded me of another set of books. At some point, I'll get you to read. Another set of urban fantasy. One thing I do like, there is a British author who, in one of his books, references the Dresden Files, and he says, in part of it, I've even heard that there's a wizard in Chicago who advertises in the Yellow Pages, and it's really cool when you see an impact of somebody like Jim Butcher, like on a genre of like the modern urban fantasy. So yeah, I don't know, that tidbit just came into my head, so I've got no real reason for telling you that apart from the fact I just thought it was really cool.
No, it's cool. I agree. I think that's in thingy. Cut that out.
Yeah, fine. I might cut that whole section out. I think that was just me just telling you that it's really cool. Cool. Right. So we're at that Throne of Glass. We're happy.
Yeah.
Both agree. Very, very good.
Very, very good.
So I seeing as you gave the Dresden Files a rating, I'm going to give Throne of Glass a 4 out of 5 for the series so far. Not just the first book, the series.
The series so far.
Because I think if I was going to give the first book one, I'd give it a 3. But as the series has gone on, I'd say it's kind of probably gone up to a 4 as a whole. And obviously you said Dresden Stormfront was a 3.5.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and I think you might get a special mention in maybe a couple of episodes time where I tell you what I thought after book 2 when I give it a go, because I think I kind of want to now. After hearing your opinion, I do want to give it a go. I think you've given me a reason to go back in and try again with Harry. I want to give him another chance.
And read it. Don't listen to the audiobook.
No, I will sit and read it. I promise.
Excellent. So the next question is, what is your next book for me?
Oh, that is a very good question. Did I pick one? I did pick one. I did. I moved it yesterday. Yeah. So, let me grab it. Let me get it off my shelf so I can actually show you. It's not there, is it? That is it.
Is it going to be Fourth Wing?
No.
Okay.
So, I absolutely am I absolutely am going to give you Fourth Wing at some point soon. I also eventually will give you the ACOTAR, but we're not going to go through them all from the off, because I think I want to talk about some other books, because I love what's relevant. I really enjoyed Fourth Wing. We'll find out our opinions on Fourth Wing, ACOTAR. We'll probably get Quicksilver out, and we'll get a couple of the stuff that are popular right now. But I would really like it if you read Metal Slinger.
Okay.
Metal Slinger. It is by Rachel Schneider.
Okay. That's it. It looks like a hefty book as well.
It's not quite as. This is printed bigger. It's 460. Okay. But this is a bigger. But this is a bigger print. It's got quite big writing. This one. It's quite spaced out.
Lovely. Cool. Well, for me, I am going to give you The Diamond Throne by David Eddings.
Ooh. Have I read it?
Have you read it? If you've read The Diamond Throne by David Eddings, of all the random books that I could have picked, that's quite impressive.
No, I've got I've read. Is it The Malorian?
Yeah. So there's.
Yes, I've read The Malorian, and I've read the Belgariad.
Belgariad, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's impressive, because I was going to give you the Belgariad as one of the books to read, because it's what those were the first 2 fantasy series that I ever read.
So I read these at the recommendation of my friend a couple of years ago. So I have already read them.
Okay, right. I'm gonna take away.
But I haven't actually read the one you have just said. So I can still read it.
Yeah, I'll give it to you a bit later on, because I would like to introduce you to some authors that you've not read before.
Yes.
The book that I want to give you, I'm not going to give you, because it is a massive beast. I think it's about 800 pages, which would be a bit hard. It's called Magician by Raymond D. Feist.
Is it a standalone, or is it a start of a series?
It can be read as a standalone, but it is part of a longer series. It's part of an incorporated world where there's lots of various series within the same world that eventually turn into a massive long 25 book series.
No, pick another.
Um,
800 pages first book, and there's possibly 25 others. No thanks, pick another. Off you pop.
trying to think. I was going to wait and give it to you later on, but we'll give you it. Legend by David Gemmell.
Legend.
Legend by David Gemmell. It is perhaps the. For me, it is the best first book of like world building and introducing you into characters and a world. Yeah, just when you read it, you hopefully you'll understand. It is amazing, and when we talk about it and talk about why he wrote it and how he wrote it, I think it's incredible. So yeah, Legend by
Yeah.
David Gemmell. We're going to go with
So
that one.
the disclaimer is I've not read any David Gemmell at all ever. So that is
That's good.
exciting.
Yes. Cool. Excellent.
Awesome.
So send me, obviously after this, send me the name of that book again. And
I
I'll
will
send you
indeed.
mine. And so this has been Old Myths, New Legend with Charlie and Rob. And we will see you next time.
You will indeed.